Welcome to this week's study. We hope and pray that you've been enjoying and growing in this study of the Spiritual Emphasis campaign. God bless you as you listen this message from our Bishop, Bishop Ngari, Kariithi.
You know, one of the things that's most important in this whole walk with God is recognizing who He is. So many times the thing that causes us to falter, not to take those big steps, is because we aren't quite sure that our God is big enough. But He is. He really is. You know, there are many, many stories in the Bible that can, sort of help us see the realities in which people live. One of the guys that comes to mind is Joshua, the guy who took over from Moses as leader of Israel. And he's supposed to take the people into the promised land. And when you look at the end of Deuteronomy, the book of Deuteronomy, and then the first 2 chapters of the book of Joshua, you realize this guy was facing something really big and he wasn't really sure of himself. Because, how else would you explain the number of times that he has to be told, be strong and very courageous. Do not be afraid. He's told that by Moses. He's told that directly by God. And ultimately, he's even told that by the army. Do not be afraid. People could see that this guy was worried about what was before him. But because God had promised him, I am with you. Am I not with you? Those were some of the things that God told Joshua. Joshua was then able to step forward and do some amazing things as a military conqueror, a leader of the people of Israel, and able to accomplish things that, they just boggle our minds in our time. We have others like Gideon, this guy who was so afraid of the Midianites that he was doing stuff in hiding. He was beating wheat in a place that was, below the ground surface. And so, clearly it couldn't work. But this guy, once he realizes that it's God who's talking to him, he goes to war with 300 men against an army that was more than the 30,000 that he had first recruited. He's able to send these guys home because God says, I only need 300 for the job that I want. You go to the, guys like Jeremiah, the prophet Jeremiah, he went through trouble. And this is not, the story isn't always just a soft and easy story. Jeremiah went through a lot of persecution. The government was on his back all the time. He was in prison. He had many, many trials. And there are times when he was feeling like he could give up. Why did he keep going? Why did he keep on standing and getting up whenever things were going wrong? It's because God was with him. We have the testimony of people in the New Testament. Paul, who writes, and actually he's quoted by Ortberg in our book in Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through the one who strengthens me. He's doing things like what? Living in prison with triumph in his heart, knowing that he is the winner, that the things that God has called him to are being accomplished. Even his prisoners, his prison guards were becoming convinced that this is God who is working in his life. This God is big. The reason why these guys were able to keep on going is because they started to see who this God is, that He is greater than anything that we could think or imagine. If you start recognizing that this one who is in you, if you are a believer, He is in you. Just stop and think. The one who made the universe, the whole of it, who made everything that you can see and what you can't see, the one who enables you to breathe, the one who gives life and takes it, this one who created even, those angels, whether there's the archangels like Michael or Satan, the guys who rebelled, this one, the one that created you, He is in you. And when you know that He is in you, and He's given you the promise, I am with you, as you understand who this is, you can get a new type of courage. You can start stepping out into things that previously you thought were much too big for you. There's nothing too big for God. And there is so much that you could accomplish as you walk with Him, but you need to see who He is. That's what will encourage your heart. That'll what will give you that strength. It's getting to see your God. And the more you walk together with him, the more you see him, the greater he becomes. I mean, I've been walking this journey for years and years, and one of the things that just keeps on knocking me down is the greatness of my God. And so I can keep on stepping forward. Sometimes I'm still stepping out of the boat. I'm still going out and feeling I can do this new thing that God is calling me to. Why? Because of who he is. Our God is great. You know, worship is one of the things, and one of the most powerful things that can enable you to keep on growing your relationship with God. Because one of the things that worship really does, it expresses to God what we believe, what we think about him. This is part of what it is. When we say that we love God, I mean, it's not just in our singing. It's in the things that we do, even in that stepping out of the boat and taking that courageous step. It is part of worship. It is a part of recognizing this is God. This is who you are. And the more you reflect that and you speak it out, the more it becomes an enriching part of your life. You know, when God made you and I, he created us in his image. And when you start understanding what it means to bear the image, it's like a mirror needs to be turned towards the real source of light, the source of the image that it's supposed to carry, for it to really do its work. Well, it's the same thing here. If you want to live a life that is fulfilling, that really reflects everything that you have been created for, you need to turn towards God. And the more you can see of him, the greater that you yourself will become. The more, our God becomes bigger and bigger, the more you come close to him and you see more. But it also enables you to become bigger and bigger, more completely what God designed you to be, so that you might reflect his nature. The more you see, the more you become. The more you become, the more willing you are to step out into your destiny. And as you step out into that destiny and you start doing the things that he created you for, you see more of him. Your worship grows. Your recognition of him and your love for him grows. You see more, and you can actually step out more because you're becoming more. It is as we turn to God, and worship him and recognize all that he is, that we become more fully what we've been created to. Another thing that happens with worship is that those words that we speak to him, those songs, those things that are singing in our hearts relating to who he is, they also become a reinforcement in our own minds and help us to let go of the other kinds of thoughts that would distract us. It helps us to focus on our God. It helps us to keep on remembering and therefore have a new courage to face everything. So worship is so important in your life as a follower of Jesus Christ. Make sure that you do make that effort to not only, just sing those songs, but to reflect on them and allow them to be the reflection of your own heart about who God is in your life. Find your own words and your own expression of who God is in your life, what you're seeing of his action in your life. And your worship will enrich you. It'll make you more fully all that you have been called to be. When the author writes and he says, worship fundamentally is about the definition of reality. I wonder whether you would just connect that with all that we are learning from the scriptures, even some of the things that I've already said. Our God made everything. Heaven and earth, everything that we see and we do not see. As we recognize that in our worship, as we recognize that everything has come from him, that he is the source of everything, and not just that he is actually the final word. He is the end of everything. He is the one who will bring history to its conclusion, that it's his purposes that will always prevail. Then you start understanding that worship really is fundamental to our understanding of reality. If we want to interact with reality, we've got to interact with God. And the more we get to know God, the more we worship Him. Worship enables us to walk fully in the way that God has called us to. It's looking to Him. You know, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. When He says that, He's telling you, look at Him. The Bible tells us, you know, fix your eyes on Jesus, look at Him. Because with that, with your eye there, then you have the real path. You have reality lived in the way that it ought to be. You know, we've been going through this study, and I hope that it has really made a difference in your life. It is my prayer that you will be, having learned so much about what it is to have faith, learned about the challenges that are there, the waves that rise up, recognize the reality that there is fear and all of that, all of this other stuff that happens. That because of God, you can do all that you've been made for, all that you've been called to. And I'd like to finish with page 202 of Ortberg's book. It's right at the end of all that he's been saying, that we need to remember this thing, that Jesus isn't finished yet. He is still looking for people who will dare to trust Him. He is still looking for people who will refuse to allow fear to have the final word. He is still looking for people who refuse to be deterred by failure. This is your chance of a lifetime. Just remember one thing. If you want to walk on water, you've got to get out of the boat. May the Lord be with you as you take your next steps, walking where God has called you, doing that He prepared you for. He will enable you, but you've got to step forward. Trust Him and step out of the boat, out of your comfort zone, into the greatness that He has called you to. God bless you.